Turn the mic up. This is legacy emotion. For vision of victory, trailblazing the path. Mind sharp, words heavy, every bar got class. Iconic by nature, pioneer by design. History in the making every time she aligns. Doctorate dreams, but the roots run deep. Built from the grind, now the whole world speaks. Culture, purpose, power when she steps in the room. Drop gems so real, make the future zoom. Yeah.
This is iconic pioneers. Hear the story unfold, where the fearless lead and the truth gets told. Every voice legendary, every lesson precise. Hosted with wisdom, Dr. Tabatha Russell on the mic. Press play. Stay ready. The movement starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Iconic Pioneers podcast. It's the space where disruptors, trailblazers, and bold thinkers gather to rewrite the rules of success. I'm your host, Dr. Tabatha Russell, and on this show on today, we're going to go deep, and we're going to talk about wealth and legacy, and we're going to talk with Miss Jonda Lowe. Can I just say that she is super amazing? And she is the best of the best when it comes to building wealth and securing your legacy. So, Ms. Jonda, welcome in on today.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Dr. Tabatha. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today.
Absolutely. You are most welcome. Could you go ahead and share with the audience who you are and what you do?
Well, as you mentioned, I am Jonda Lowe, and I'm the founder and CEO of Jonda Inc. We are headquartered in Huntington, West Virginia, but we have what you might call back office support, not only in Laurel, Mississippi, but also in Danbury, Connecticut. So pretty large outfit. And I've spent the last 4 decades transforming how people think about, protect, and grow their money. I'm a Christian financial advisor. I am the author of a best-selling book, Why You Must Take Your Hands Off God's Money. And I'm the creator of the Tithe Challenge.
I love that. Did y'all hear that? She is the best of the best. Okay. So when you think about wealth beyond money, though, what assets are you intentionally building that will outlive you?
Beyond money?
Yes.
Real estate.
Yeah.
I think that, and again, you and I have talked about this, as believers, we're called to leave an inheritance to our children's children. And there's a couple of assets. I mentioned real estate, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw out the buzzword that's going to probably freak everybody out. But you know what? It's the claim to fame, and that's permanent life insurance. So, it is a way to, again, create generational wealth. That strategy actually goes all the way back to John D. Rockefeller.
Yes, absolutely. And that is so important for us to have that in our ecosystem, right? Our own family ecosystem. Now, I know that a lot of people overlook insurance a lot of times. However, that becomes, or it can be such a great tool in your family to where it can be passed down from generation to generation. But how does your brand reflect your long-term legacy vision rather than just short-term success?
So at Jonda, we focus on, and by the way, thank you for that question. It's a great one. At Jonda, we focus on 5 key principles when we're working with any new client. And the very first thing out of the gate that we endeavor to do is to eliminate, where possible, and often we can do it quite successfully, market risk, stock market risk. Okay, so the risk of the stock market taking your money. So that's a top priority. Right behind that is we're minimizing income tax whenever possible. Our plans are, and I'm proud of our plans, we're very strategic. We take a holistic approach to our plans. So once we have eliminated market risk and minimized income tax, we're going to look at maximizing Social Security. That's a big question that a lot of clients have is, when do I take Social Security? Do I wait? And there is no blanket answer for that. It's very custom. And so keep that in mind. There's a lot of talk around when to take it and when not to take it. And I would just caution you that it is a very custom decision. Once those three things are taken care of, we focus on a resource for long-term care. A statistic right now that is just utterly staggering is that 70%, so 7 in 10 people age 65 or older will need some form of long-term care. And let me tell you, with a 90-year-old mother in a nursing home right now, that can just deplete your finances faster than your head will be spinning. And so if you're not proactive and you do not plan for that risk, because it is, I call it the wild card. It's just a huge risk to your financial success. If you don't plan for it and get caught off guard, it can be a real mess. Beyond that, we're going to look for legacy planning, and we kind of leave that to the end because, unfortunately, Dr. Tabatha, some people that we meet with, have saved enough for like the first three, like retirement, right?
Yeah,
And then we'll meet some people that have actually saved enough where we can put some resources aside for long-term care, and then we meet some people that have actually saved quite a bit, and they have the ability to do that legacy planning, like we mentioned at the beginning.
I love that. And it sounds like you help people in every stage, whether they're just beginning to start to plan ahead, if they're in the thick of things, right? They're right there right now. And for those that have already planned this out, you make sure that they even have a custom plan to make sure that they are cared for with their long-term care as well. So I absolutely like that. But what mindset shift allowed you to move from earning income to building true wealth? Because I know for all of us, we started somewhere, right? So where was that start for you, and what shifted that?
Well, that's a long story, but let me see if I can give you the abbreviated version of that. I had a mentor challenge me a few years ago to write my story, and I wrote it and I submitted it to him, and he said, "That's not it." I was kind of taken aback. So I did a second draft, sent it to him, and he's like, "That's not it." So I really sat with the Lord, and I was really thinking about, going all the way back. And then I wrote the third draft, and he's like, "That's it." And what came out of that was my journey from a child. From a child in, I'll just tell you one quick story. A child in a small community grocery store where my mom had sent me in to buy 3 things. All right. She gave me money for 3 things. That's what we needed for dinner. And I was about 10 years old, and I love chocolate. Actually, I still love chocolate. And I was really good at math. At a young age. And so I go into that store and I quickly grab what mom has told me to get. And I add it up in my mind, and I look at the money, and I look at the bag of Hershey Kisses, and I'm like, "Ooh, I can afford those too." So I grab them and I go to the register, and the lady brings it up and she gives me my total, and I don't have enough money. And I mean, I'm sure she saw just like the blood drain out of my face, right? She was very kind, and she leaned in and she said, "You owe tax, honey." And I was like, "Tax? What's that?" A kid, right? I did tax.
Yeah.
And this kind gentleman behind me threw down a few coins, and I went to the car. Now, I won't tell you what happened after that, because my mother was mortified, and obviously there was a little bit of punishment involved in that. But looking back, and I could tell you story after story, we could talk for hours, how God took me on this journey of experiences with money, right? Good and bad. And so that really led me to the profession, or to the career. But I will say this, I ask people all the time the question, are you rich or are you wealthy? Because there's a difference. There's a difference. And so, and there's not anything wrong with being rich. I mean, really, if rich means that you have a job, that you have income coming in to support this luxurious lifestyle that you're living. The problem is when you lose the job, you lose your stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So if you're rich, you've got that 9 to 5 or whatever it is. It might not be 9 to 5, but you have to have that income because that is what is sustaining this, wealthy lifestyle that you believe you're living. But really you're renting it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You're renting it. So if you're wealthy, the difference between rich and wealthy is when you have resources that generate income to sustain that lifestyle. And so when, you're not chasing the 9 to 5 any longer. So, that was a real, and it took me a minute, right? I mean, I've been doing this 39 years.
Wow.
And don't tell my secret. I tell everybody I started when I was 4. We'll just keep that between us. But, I've been doing this a long time, and I didn't open my own agency until 2004. And so I had a lot of time, in corporate world, working for the Edward Jones of the world, the Smith Barneys and things like that. But yeah, it's just been, honestly, probably in the last 10 to 12 years that I've made this distinct shift to wealth over riches.
I love it. I love it. And knowing that there is a distinct difference definitely does allow you to be able to see what's in your wheelhouse, right? What is it that you have available to you that potentially is misplaced? And what do I mean by that? Like, I'm on the side of financial literacy, so I help people to learn what these different terms mean, how important it is to have some sort of plan and some structures, and then refer them to a person like yourself. So that way they can get the expert help to put all these things in place. So knowing that there's steps that people can take in order for them to be able to go from rich to wealthy is everything. But I believe, like, I've come across a lot of people that never even thought that doing stuff like this was even available to them.
Oh, 100%.
Right. I've been on this quest to make sure that everybody knows that, first of all, you got to start somewhere, right? And then from starting somewhere, you have the opportunity then to launch out there into the deep. So I know that many people build businesses, but few build legacy structures. So what systems or strategies are you implementing to create generational impact for your ecosystem?
Well, one of them is truly awareness. Because again, you don't know what you don't know. And you mentioned earlier that, we serve clients of all ages. And can I just tell you that I love it when I can get a young person? Love it. We always encourage our clients to bring in their adult children, right? Because the sooner you start, the less mistakes, you have to fix. But, it's all about education. And so when we're working with a client, we have to take care of the basic needs. And one of the things that I do love, if I can give another shameless plug about my latest book, Why You Must Take Your Hands Off God's Money, the second part of that book, 2 or 3 or 4 chapters are dedicated to budgeting. Right. And how to save money and how to stretch your money further and how to set priorities. And so once we educate and we get the priorities in line, then we start introducing these, and I just call them non-traditional ways of saving. Because let's just face it, Dr. Tabatha, no one in the mainstream is talking about life insurance as an alternative investment. And it absolutely is. In fact, it's a great bond alternative, to be entirely honest. But nobody really focuses on these type of assets with, can we call them blue collar workers, just the majority of our population, because, they have this mentality that they're reserved for the, ultra high net worth. And that's just not true. That is just not true. And, the sooner you start with these strategies, like most, the less money that's required. And so, one of the things that I challenge people to do is to rethink putting money in a 401k. Now, I'm probably going to blow up your feed when this goes, when you post this podcast. But I challenge you, think through what you're doing. All right. So especially if you're young, you're putting money in a 401k, you're tying it up to your 59 and a half or older, short of an exception on a withdrawal. And you're telling the IRS, hey, I'll pay my taxes later.
Right.
This is not money you're putting in an account that comes out tax-free. Now, there's a huge misconception. I've run into a lot of people out there that think their 401k is coming out tax-free. And I'm
Right.
sorry if I just ruined your day, but that's not true. Okay.
Right.
Every dollar that comes out of that 401k, if you have enough income in retirement to trigger income tax, every dollar of your 401k distribution will also be taxed. So, you're telling, hey, I'm going to pay it later.
Right.
And what we know about income taxes is their laws.
Mhm.
And laws
Mhm.
can and do change. And
Right.
so, and if you do a little research, our income tax brackets are pretty low right now
Mhm.
compared to where they've been in history. And so, I just challenge people to think differently. That's kind of my tagline. We need to think
Mhm.
differently. We need to transform how we think about our money. And when you think differently, and when you start challenging some of these traditional savings models that are just shoved down our throats, all of a sudden things become apparent that maybe this plan wasn't designed with our best interest in mind.
That's right. That's
And
right.
I'll just stop there.
No, that's really good because people don't understand that your 401k, if you take it out prematurely, it's going to be taxed anywhere from 20 to 30% of your money is gone before you see it. So
Easily.
depending upon the state that you live in and the laws that's set up, right? It really does make a difference when you know that there are other alternative ways of really allowing your money to work for you. And
Yeah.
so I absolutely love that. And I agree that the earlier you get started, the better off it is. But it's not off the table if you didn't start early, right?
Exactly.
There's still some options available for you. So let's talk about your, when I think about this question though, I think about your tithe challenge, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
let's plug that in here for this one. Okay.
Well, okay. So, with the tithe challenge, again, I can go all the way back to my childhood where I watched my father sit at our kitchen table every Saturday night and write a check and stick it in the inside pocket of a suit jacket that he put on the next morning. I watched him put it in a white envelope and put it in an offering plate every Sunday without fail.
Mhm.
And, I knew I was taught young about tithing. In fact, when I finally did get some allowance and some ways to earn some money as a child, I remember earning $2.50 this first week. And my dad said, in this quarter right here
Mhm.
goes in the offering plate on Sunday. So I knew about tithe, and my father was, God honored his obedience and blessed my family immensely. Not to say that we're wealthy, but we never wanted for
Mhm.
anything. The need was always met. And so as an adult, I would tithe, and then I didn't have enough money to tithe, and then I would tithe, and I was never consistent. And there was a day in 2020, I was listening to a message from actually Dr. Stephen Furtick,
Mhm.
and he asked a question: are you stealing God's money?
Mhm.
And I was like, what? He went on to say, he described and labeled the first 10% of our money as holy money. And I
Right.
was just, again, talk about the blood running out of your face. I was just like, I was a ghost. I was like, oh my gosh, and so, we talked about, honoring and being faithful with your holy money. And Dr. Tabitha, that day, or actually a couple of days before that sermon, I had received a large commission. There was
Mhm.
a large commission sitting in my checking account. It's probably one of the largest I'd received up to that point.
Mhm.
And I could not get that money out of my checking account fast enough. I went to
Mhm.
the app, and I gave it, and then I went to my banking app to make sure it was gone, right? And
Mhm.
I felt such a relief.
Mhm.
I felt like
Mhm.
God, I had honored, I had obeyed, and he was going to honor that. And granted, we don't tithe to get, but
Right.
but God does honor. When we honor him and obey in that, he will bless that. So praise the Lord from that moment on. So for 6 years, I have been consistent, and
Yes.
there have been times that I didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't know how the light bill was going to get paid. I didn't know how this was going to get done, but it always
Mhm.
got done.
Right.
It always got done. And so here's the thing, and this might be what you were digging for and you didn't even know it. So in my career, because I've been a Christian since I was 6.
Mm.
And so in my career, I was always told that you don't talk about politics and you don't talk about religion unless you want to lose the deal. Okay.
Right.
That's just
Right.
been, and one morning I was running a bath, and there's power in running water.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the Holy Spirit said to me that I was going to actually use my experiences, because I've gone through some rough ones. I've gone through bankruptcy. That's
Mm-hmm.
not easy for me to tell the
Mm-hmm.
public.
Right.
But you know what? I was encouraged to do that by a mentor of mine, because if you've gone through that and think you can't come out of it, I'm here as a personal testimony to tell you, you absolutely can, by the grace of
Right.
God, get
Right.
on the other side of that, and well
Right.
beyond the other
That's
side of
right.
that. Yeah. So in that moment, he told me I was going to take my life experiences of struggling with money, and I was going to take the knowledge that I had gained in the financial services industry, and I was going to teach people how they can afford to tithe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that's the biggest pushback we get. Oh, I can't afford to tithe. I don't have
Right.
enough money to tithe. Well, here's the
Right.
problem. You tithe off the top, not
Right.
off the end. There will
Right.
never be enough if you tithe off the end. You
Right.
must tithe off the top. And so
Right.
that's been recent. That's been in the last 6 years, that it was just a huge transformation for my career. And
Mm-hmm.
and it was, the Holy Spirit giving me permission, if you will. And
Mm-hmm.
not that I needed permission, but I had just been plagued with so many important people, in my industry, influencers in my industry, that you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
That it doesn't work like that. And
Right.
God's like, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does, because my people need help, right?
Yeah.
My people need you. And
Yeah.
so I'm not sure if that's what you were digging for, but I'm glad I got to share that with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's wonderful. I know that there are so many promises tied to the tithe, right?
Yes.
I too have gone through some very challenging situations. One that I quite tell often is I made one decision, lost $500,000, the house, the cars, all the things, and my babies were small, like 4 small babies at the time. And so I know that I can remember being in a revival one week, and this was a tent revival outside in the fresh air. And a bishop came in and he said, I challenge you to give your tithes before you do anything else. He said, God knows you have bills. God knows
Mhm.
what you have need of. He said, but when you put him first, it says that he will, give back to you. Take care. He supplies all your needs through
Yes, he
his
does.
riches and glory by Christ Jesus. So I was like, you know what? Everything else was falling apart. So why not try it? Right? So I started writing out them checks. And can I just say that things started turning around so quickly to
Yes.
where it felt like I went through that season so quickly to where folks was like, how'd you come out of it? I just kept going. Like I didn't have time to stop because, I had my babies to take care of. So I knew if nothing else, because I was an entrepreneur at the time, I could go back to corporate America, make 6 figures, get some insurance, take care of my babies, and not miss a beat. We moved across town and all of that kind of stuff. And the when I think about it, it was like, wow, that was kind of seamless, right? But that's a promise that goes along with it that you activate as a result of paying those tithes. So
Mhm.
I concur with you that has a high level of importance. Now, I can say also that I've been challenged also throughout the years to write bigger checks,
Yes.
right? Like, so when you start writing 4, 5 figure checks and you're just like, your hand get to shake it a little bit, you get that little feeling right there. Like, oh my goodness. So, how do you balance profitability with purpose while ensuring that your brand stays authentic?
Well, the profitability part, I had to make a decision. So you might be able to relate to this. When you do start in a career, when you do start to make money, and I mean, a decent amount of money, it's nice. And you
Mhm.
like to spend it,
Mhm.
right? You like to
Mhm.
buy things and go places, and it's nice. But I made a decision to, and by the way, I did some of those things. Don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
I'm not above any of that.
Mhm.
But I had to realize that, God gave me my home. I
Mhm.
have a car. I have an
Mhm.
office. I
Mhm.
have a wonderful career, and I'm happy with what the life I'm living, and so I settled into, for me, I settled into a salary that, I won't say it's modest, but it's certainly not over the top. And,
Mhm.
it's not.
Mhm.
I mean, there's plenty of money for me to pay my bills. Granted, praise the Lord, I don't have a mortgage, and that
Mhm.
helps a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
But I pay my bills, and there's a little extra for me to, go shopping, or take a trip. But beyond that, I want to reinvest the profits back into the business to grow it. Now I'm trying to grow it, well, mainly for two reasons. One, generational wealth. I mean,
Mhm.
this is to be left to my children and grandchildren,
Right.
of which I have three grands right now.
Mhm.
And the oldest one will be 16 this
Mhm.
summer. And so, just getting them to start thinking more about money early.
Mhm.
But the second reason is want and need to reach more people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there's only one of me. And so you have to work with teams.
Mhm.
You have to work with
Mhm.
teams, talented teams, I might add, to, get your voice out and multiply your impact.
Mhm.
And that's really, to me, that is my purpose right now. And it's not right now. That is my purpose. God took me on this journey of ugly finances, right? He pulled me out of the muck. He gave me a plethora, just a wealth of knowledge over the last 4 decades in the financial services industry. And then he just plopped me down and he said, now I need you to teach this
Mhm.
because my people need it.
Right.
And it's so needed right now.
Mhm.
I mean, there's so many people struggling, and I'm not saying that it's magic. And if you talk to me, all those things are going to go away. But I can tell you that everything, no, I'm going to say it boldly,
Mhm.
everything
Mhm.
can be fixed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now it might be a little harder to
Mhm.
fix your situation than the next person's, but everything can be fixed.
Yeah.
And it really starts with a
Mhm.
change in mindset.
Right. Right.
Once you make that switch, right? Once you make
Mhm.
that switch and that commitment, you're rolling.
Yeah, I sometimes understand that people don't really know the gravity of mindset and money and how the two of them go hand in hand. Like if you don't see yourself, you can only go as far as you see yourself financially, right?
Yep.
If folks have been, in the struggle all their life, sometimes we find that once they get it though, they can take off, right?
Yeah.
And for those that still holding on to that scarcity mindset, they are the ones that it takes a little bit longer
Mhm.
to come to the notion of, look, we this can be fixed.
Yeah.
All I believe most anything can be turned around, but it's going to take work, right? I always say that nothing beats work but work, right? So putting in the work is going to allow you to overcome and get the victory in so many different areas. But tell me this: what does generational wealth mean to you personally, and how does that influence the way that you lead today?
Well, it's paying it forward. That's kind of a trendy term. Right now, it is a form of paying it forward. It's my responsibility. I believe biblically, it's my responsibility to teach my grandkids how to be financially successful. Does that mean, that they're going to have everything they want in the world? No, but it means they won't be dependent upon the
Mhm.
system.
Mhm.
All right.
Right.
And that's not to throw anyone under the bus that might be in that situation right now. Again, everything can be
Mhm.
fixed,
Right.
but it's my responsibility to teach them. And so you teach often by doing,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So, we have to set things in place. So for example, real estate,
Mhm.
God's not making any more dirt.
No, not at all.
So, real estate by definition
Mhm.
should appreciate over time.
Right.
Right. And that's an asset that if it is owned properly,
Mhm.
there's some, key points in there. You've got to own it properly.
Mhm.
The asset has to be structured properly. But if it is, that can create a source of income
Mhm.
that never stops.
Right.
And so, that is something that gives my children and grandchildren just a foundation. Again, I'm not looking to make them self-sufficient in any way,
Mhm.
through this trust, if you will, but
Mhm.
it's just a base, and it's
Right.
it's something that teaches them that you can't spend everything you make.
Right.
You just can't. You
Right.
have to put some back.
Absolutely, absolutely. A friend and I were talking the other day about going through the process of being your own bank, and
Yes.
folks were saying like, "Is that even possible? I don't even think that that's legal." Well, if you know what you're doing and you've had enough, or you have an expert in your corner, all things
Mhm.
are possible.
Oh,
So I quite often encourage people to sit down and have the conversations.
yeah.
Let it start there. And then you make an informed decision because you have all the pieces. A lot of times we assume based upon what we hear. And if you're trying to, get all the pieces and learn all the knowledge from YouTube University and Google Marketplace, that's going to be a tall task, right? That you can very easily lose your shirt over if you're not careful, right? So
Oh, yeah.
how do you ensure that your business model creates sustainability and not just success in the moment?
Well, we've talked so much about mindset,
Mhm.
and I know that I can't help everyone out there
Mhm.
because of that mindset issue. We have been brainwashed in many ways with these traditional, I call them traditional ways of investing and traditional ways of saving money. And I'm not saying there's not money to be made in those, because people have made money in those, but for the most part, the traditional investments are harder to sustain because the risks are out of our control
Right.
in many ways.
Right.
And so, as I mentioned, early in the podcast, we need to do our best to minimize or eliminate as much risk in our portfolios as possible. And it's not that, I'm trying to be a control freak, but just think about it. I mean, the more control you have, the more hands-on control you have, then the more the less risk is in the portfolio, the more losses and difficulties you can avoid. So again, I think it all goes back to the mindset, and if we can get the person to understand
Mhm.
that anytime you hear a pitch, I don't care what it's for. If somebody says, Dr. Tabatha, this is the best face cream ever. It does
Mhm.
A, B, and C, and it does it faster than anything on the market, and you need to get some.
Right.
Guess what?
Right.
This face cream may be amazing. All right.
Mhm.
It absolutely may be amazing. But
Mhm. Right.
chances are the person that's telling you about it is going to receive financial gain if you
Yes.
buy it.
Yes.
Now, that's not wrong. Okay. It's not
Mhm.
wrong to make money on something you're selling, but I need you to understand that, just have the mindset that every time you hear annuities are bad, well,
Mhm.
chances are the person that said that is someone who only does stocks, bonds, and managed money. And if
Right.
you do an annuity, they can't make any money on you. Okay, so
Right.
just remember that.
Yeah.
It's if you can break free, from this traditional message that
Mhm.
is just spewed all over mainstream media, and start to actually open your mind to the possibility of what
Yeah.
if,
Yeah.
your world's going to change. Your financial world's going to
Absolutely.
change.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. And that's why I'm always encouraging people to make an informed decision. How do you do that? Is get all the information
100%.
before you have to say that I have to have it right now. Now, there's some things that you must have in your portfolio, right? If you're going to create generational wealth and you're going to structure it properly. However, if it's new and it's foreign to you, get the information first
Yeah.
and then make a decision, right? So it definitely does make a difference. Now, what legacy lesson are you intentionally modeling for the next generation of leaders watching your journey?
I think transparency is key.
Mhm.
Number one, we all make mistakes,
Mhm.
and just own them and move forward. But I think any good leader acknowledges his mistakes or her mistakes and is just very transparent in their leadership. Um, when I'm told to do something, if I'm not told why I need to do it, chances are you're going to have a hard time getting me to do it, right? If I don't know why we're doing it, the benefits that are going to come from it, et cetera, then it's hard for me. And so I think full transparency, especially in a corporation, as much as there can be. Now I understand in larger corporations and corporate America, chances are, you're not going to be sharing your revenues with your immediate staff or profits, I should say. I mean, they should have an
Right.
idea about revenues.
Mhm.
But I think the transparency and behind that, I also think it's important that you reward your people, in your team. What's the word I want? Fairly.
Right.
That's a weak word, but that's the one that
Mhm.
comes to mind.
Mhm.
Good people are hard to find.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when you find that person and you've incorporated them into your vision and your company and your
Mhm.
purpose,
Mhm.
you really do need to make sure that it is a team and
Mhm.
that they feel like they are a team member. And so I think transparency and just overall is the word camaraderie,
Yeah.
that we're collaborating and we're working together for a joint purpose, a joint effort, and that we all benefit from that. It's
Yeah.
not that the CEO takes home all the money. It doesn't work like that. It
That's
doesn't.
right.
I
That's right.
should say it doesn't work well like that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm. Absolutely. And having a thriving environment is everything. So taking care of that team is hugely important. I know that we quite often talk about the law of impact and how we practice abundance giving. And that means that you take care of your people, right? You let them
absolutely.
know how much you appreciate the job that they do. Man, the sky is the limit, right? I understand that most teams will go to bat for you and they'll do the most because you allow them in that space of where they feel like that they have ownership in what it is that you're doing if done right. So what if your brand were a legacy blueprint rather, what principles would future leaders need to understand to carry it forward?
To carry my brand forward,
Yes. Mhm.
well, first and foremost, God would have to be at the top priority,
Mhm.
and honoring Him in all of our decisions. Beyond that, I think that it's absolutely imperative that we focus on, I hate to say the little guy, but
Mhm.
that's important to me because let me say that differently. Uh,
Mhm.
Women, all right, women are hugely ignored in this industry, in the financial services
Right.
industry. I
Right.
witnessed that firsthand working for a broker. I won't say where. Early in my career, I was his assistant, and the husband and wife would come in, and he would have a conversation with the husband, and
Mhm.
never even look her way. And women statistically outlive our
Yeah.
men. So, if the
Yeah.
woman is not involved in the financial decisions right now, she will be at some point. And so I think it's important that we keep um, that we keep our goals to people that are being, I don't want to say ignored, but somewhat ignored. You
Mhm.
mentioned literacy, financial literacy, and just education, and that's so key. And I think that when we educate people, we build trust. And when we
Right.
build trust with people, we can do business with them. Money, next to God and family, money is the closest thing to people's hearts, right?
That's right.
And so I think that, if you were to say, hey, how do you take this company forward? I think our key focus needs to continue to be on educating,
Yeah.
educating people on what the opportunity is. Doesn't mean you're going to do it, but you
Mhm.
can't make a good decision if you don't know what's available. And
Yeah.
so that would be for my particular brand, Jonda Knows, would be to
Mhm.
continue keeping God first and then continuing to educate on financial literacy, financial alternatives.
I love it. I love it. I know that inclusion in the conversations, in the decision making when it comes to finances, having everybody on board is
Mhm.
game changing because,
Yeah.
like you said, you never know when one person is going to have to, one or the other is going to have to make those decisions. So it is hugely important that we make sure that the transparency shows up everywhere. So, to the person that is potentially having those financial challenges, they know that they need to put some things in place. They know that they need to get a strategy to help them with their aspirations for building generational wealth. What would you say to them um, to encourage them on their journey?
Like, how do they get started? Like,
Yeah,
where would they go to get started? Well,
yeah.
it's I tell even some of my most successful clients, I often encourage them to go back to the very basics and do a budget. You
Mhm.
you have to know what's coming in, you have to know what's going out. I think that you, at the very least, you have to do financial basics. So that includes, a personal financial statement. You have to know what you have and where you are. And you have to make sure that you are balanced, right? If you're not balanced, then you have to make adjustments. Once you have these core things in place, then we can take steps forward. But I think so many people ignore that.
Mhm.
Right? They're like, hey, this is me, and this is where I'm at, and this is where I want to go. Well, we need to dial it back a little bit. I think
Mhm.
that's absolutely important. And for folks coming to me, I do, if I can do a shameless plug, I do the financial reset webinar on
Mhm.
Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's completely free of charge, and so that might be a place again where you can start getting education,
Right.
getting educated about various topics, and then our website. Actually, the website yourholymoney.com is full of free financial exercises. You can just download and work through those. And so I think that's important for anyone who's wanting to make a change, is to evaluate where you are,
Right.
because it'll make it easier. If we
Mhm.
know where we are and what we're dealing with, it'll make it easier for us to make adjustments where need to be, and then move forward towards the goal, whatever that goal may be.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Y'all heard it here first, right? That was absolutely amazing. Miss Jonda, this has been a awesome conversation
Thank you.
on finances and creating generational wealth. How can the audience connect with you? Because I know somebody is waiting for the information right now.
Thank you. Well, actually, you can go to our website. That's going to be Jonda Knows. That's JONDAKNOWS.com. You can catch me on all the socials, on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and then the Jonda Knows Show on YouTube.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here on today. We'll have to have you back again to
Yes, I'd like
learn
that.
more about what you're doing and how you're helping people to really change their financial situations. It has definitely been a pleasure. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
This is iconic pioneers. Hear the story unfold, where the fearless lead and the truth gets told. Every voice legendary, every lesson precise. House filled with wisdom, Dr. Tabatha Russell on the mic. Press play. Stay ready. The movement starts now.